You're making one right decision today. You're listening to Handcuffs and Sage.
Three badass moms bringing you all the true crime and paranormal your heart desires.
I'm Red.
I'm Timo.
I'm Dre. And don't let your kids listen. Seriously, just don't.
Hey, it's Handcuffs and Sage. How's everyone doing?
Good. What's up?
This is Red.
This is Timo.
This is Dre.
And this is Rock.
What up?
This is our
What's up, guys?
Down the Rabbit Hole episode. I hope everyone's doing well. This is the crazy week. How are we all doing?
Messed
I'm
up,
breathing.
man. Yeah.
I'm frazzled. I'm frazzled
Yeah.
over many different things
We're
right
live.
now. I'm losing it. I'm losing it right now.
Focus on the good stuff, man.
Yeah, focus on the good stuff. Tomorrow, my daughter graduates from high school, and I still have 50 million things to do, and that's mom life, right?
That's right.
You know, we had a processional, I don't know what it's called, but the drive-by graduation ceremony going through my block today, and
Oh,
we
yeah.
we started screaming, you know, our support to the
Oh,
high
I
school.
thought you were going to say,
Yeah.
like, obscenities. I'm like, oh, my
Oh,
God.
no, No,
Oh, you're
we're
high
done.
school. No, I'm just
We're
kidding.
cowboys. We bleed green.
Oh,
I'm
I
pretty sure my
agree.
husband's gonna be screaming at Ricky, "Get out now! You're 18!"
Yeah.
That's
oh
right.
no.
He's
Bye.
like, I got a gym in my room. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so much room to do activities.
Yeah. Can we
Well,
make
hey.
beds?
What
By the
kind
time-
of activities?
By the time the kids get back in school, they'll all be 21, so they can legally, like,
Right?
you know, party down and drink on the weekends.
Yeah,
Yep.
legally.
Legally.
I like to do things illegally. Okay.
More
so
fun.
It is more fun. So this week we are talking about Scientology, and I was actually really excited about this topic, and everyone kind of looked into it. I think this is a fascinating thing to look into. Some people call it a religion. Some people call it a cult, right? So
Yeah.
we'll kind of get into that. But I wanted to talk about how it got started, right?
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm right along there with you. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
Very interesting. So we have L. Ron Hubbard, and a lot of people call him LRH, so we can call him, you know,
right.
all sorts of fun names. But he was a published author, right? And he wrote
Right.
pulp fiction
Yeah.
back in the day. And fun fact, he actually has like Guinness Awards for being the most published author ever, right?
Right.
So,
right.
this guy was really into like science fiction, pulp fiction. And so in 1950, he comes out with this book called Dianetics, right?
Mhm.
Right.
And this book is what kind of starts it off and what they believe in this church. Okay. So I kind of wanted to talk about basically what they believe in. And I thought it was interesting. So stay with me here.
Okay.
We can share thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys, this
yeah.
is so bananas.
It
And
is. So
just on a side note, Red, I did my research using the Leah Remini series, and I think Dre did the same. And
Mhm.
I had watched maybe 4 or 5 episodes of season 1 like a few years ago. And I don't know if I just had a black heart or a black soul back then, because when I rewatched it this past couple days, I cried like a fucking baby every single
yes.
fucking episode.
yeah,
I
cry.
was so emotional. I could not get over it.
Well, she starts
and-
crying, and then I start crying.
Yeah, but I
Everyone's
could
right.
see
Yeah, and
Like,
everybody
back
she
in-
interviews cries too.
yeah.
You know, going back to like the torture that they suffered, they're sitting there crying too, and I'm like, I don't
Ugh.
watch this anymore.
Yeah, so
Yes.
let's talk about this wackadoodle.
How we
Yeah.
got to this place, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
right.
So, in this book, they talk about how 75 million years ago, there was a planet, and on this planet, it was stuck in a 1950s type America. All right, that's what it looked like. There was a galactic overlord named Xenu. So if I have another child, I think Xeno's going to be the name. Fabulous. Okay.
Awesome.
So Xenu is this overlord, and he's about to be taken out of power. So of course, he freezes all the people on the planet and puts them in boxes. Stay with me here. Stay with me.
I'm trying.
He flew to another planet called Tigiak, or as we like to call it, Earth. He threw these boxes into volcanoes and hit them with, of course, hydrogen bombs. Hello, you just have to bomb them.
Oh my God.
And in this moment that they were hit with the hydrogen bombs, this caused Theodins to fly out, another great name. They were captured, these Theodins, and they were forced to see all sorts of bad things like crucifixion and all these other horrible things on the planet. And then when we are born, the Theodins go into our bodies and cause fears that we have to deal with. And that's it, you guys. It's pretty simple, pretty cut and dry. No questions there. This obviously happened.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's about as believable as the Big Bang, right? Just boom, there it is.
I love this. Just, it really puts into perspective how crazy this is. So really in 1954 is when they came out as a church, okay? And Ron Hubbard wasn't just an author, right? He had been in the Navy. So he had done time in the Navy. And we can see where he takes the Navy into what he ends up doing, right? So he starts what we know as the Sea Org.
Sea Org.
Sea Organization. And what have you guys heard about the Sea Organization?
Well, I love that you sign a contract for 1 billion years.
Right?
Well,
1 billion years.
Talk about reasonable.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Like if you're
that's cool.
reincarnated, you must finish the contract and then do it again and then do it again.
Mhm.
Which, hello, of course you're going to want to continue after you hear all the fun things you get to do in the Sea Org.
Right, right.
Do you know anything about the Sea Org, Rock?
I do, yeah. It's mainly in Florida. That's like the central hub. And my experience with Scientology is a little less on the history and a little more of the, personal experience. I worked for a Scientologist for about 3.5 years.
That's
at a
crazy,
Sun Valley. The guy was from Canada, and he happened to be really cool and a really cool guy.
Well, he's Canadian.
Not as cool as Tom Cruise, but he's a hockey player, so that was cool.
No one is.
And yeah, so my old boss used to go to Florida every year, and he was running an air conditioning company.
What?
He would leave for Florida in spring and come back midsummer and basically abandon his company. Well, they're not abandoned, but leave it in the hands of me and my other friends who are helping run the business. And
who are not Scientologists?
No, some of the employees were, but they weren't that stable. They were just a little like, they got hired because they were Scientologists, but skills wise they were dropping the ball. And then so my buddy's company was falling apart, and me and my friend came in and kind of scooped it up and kind of fixed some things and taught them how to make money, because they were just losing money, just basically throwing it out the window, because there was no checks and balances. So all these kids he had working for him were just running up all the tabs and receipts. But long story short, he would leave and go to Florida for the Sea Org and the Dianetics and the whole shebang, right in our busiest time. And me and my buddy, who was the office manager, we were like pulling our hair. We're like, why would he leave in our busiest season? This makes no sense. And he would take all his profits from the business and dump them into the church to get to the next level, right?
Wow.
But as you guys probably learned from the Leah Remini series and things like that, you get to certain levels and you kind of max out, and then they like change the test or move the goalpost, and then you got to take more tests, spend more money.
Oh, we found a mistake. You got to start all over again from day one.
Right. And those books are like thousands and thousands. What did she say that in books that she had spent like $10,000? Like she was like, I knew I saved them for a reason. And she has like this huge display of books, and it's just this first edition, second edition, third, like ridiculous.
Oh, they're really
amounts.
cool too. They look like they're better than like a Goosebumps series. Like they're all flashy covers and
with the volcano blasting. Yeah.
So,
that guy did a good job.
Our business had those. We had like a mini Scientology library, and every time the boss was gone, me and my buddies would pull them out and we'd be like, see here, we'd like totally kind of make fun of it. And we would read this crap, and I swear to God, it's like double think, double speak, like nothing made sense. Up is down, forward is back. We would just open it up to the middle of the book and we'd read a paragraph, and it would sound something like this. In order to think properly and achieve the proper, one must rewind the think to improperly think about the proper improperness of being proper.
Oh, so it was an easy read.
Oh my God.
It was like that. And I think the end goal is you can kind of predict your future and set your destiny. And there's lots of little things. I'll just say one little fun tidbit and let you guys jab at it. We worked for a lot of Scientologists, and these are wealthy people. Not like your run-of-the-mill common folk. They were, big homes in Bel Air, Beverly Hills, and what have you. But they all had in their office this station, and it was an ohm meter. I don't know if you're familiar with an ohm meter. That's how you kind of test electrical components. Well, they would, take the ohm meter and, they'd hook it up to those little stickers on the brain or your body. Like when you go, like if you're in the hospital with like a neurological problem and you got all those little wires and connectors, they would hook themselves up to these things.
Do you mean an e-meter?
It might be the e-meter. Yeah. So they all had one. But what it is, it's an ohm meter. So they might have a name for it. At the end of the day, it's just an ohm meter with a fancy box and a little analog needle.
Yes. And
then you would read a series of thought-provoking, situations and whatnot, and then you would log your, I don't know, brain waves or whatever, and create this data that probably didn't mean anything, but made you really feel like, you're doing something good. And it was pretty wild. It was almost like Twilight Zone, and we couldn't figure it out. Like, these people were all successful, so there was a little bit that was kind of enticing to us, like, maybe if we learn the secrets, we can steal their secrets, but not really sell our soul to the Scientology church, but learn their tricks. And there's no tricks. It's just a big money pyramid. Unless you're really connected, I don't think you're going anywhere other than your bank account's going to go downhill. But
right. Speaking of money pit, I mean, they said that on average it costs $35,000 to $75,000 to go clear, and we'll talk about what that means, right? But to get to the bridge of total freedom, which includes, of course, mind control of other people, you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to get to that point, right? So it's a money pit. Yeah. So
Leah, what did Leah say that each member spent no less than $250,000? And I think, I don't know if that was like in a year or in their lifetime, but whatever it was, that's a shit ton of money, $250,000.
Oh yeah.
Even if it's a lifetime, that's ridiculous. And like, how much money did she put into it, right? Because she was a maid Scientologist.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So to kind of go back, right, to the C organization, he runs this like the Navy, right? And these are like the higher ups that handle everything with the corporation. Okay. And so you sign this $1 billion contract. And one of the things that they also are saying is that they won't have kids, right? And if you do get pregnant, you should get an abortion.
You
should. Or if you have a child.
You do.
But there are times when someone has a baby and you have to put it up for adoption. If
we'll
you are
take that for you.
Right. Exactly. And so in this military or, Navy situation, you are working 17, 20 hours a day, every day. And you give your life to this situation, and if you mess up like very minor things, they treat you like shit. They put you in like a rehabilitation situation where you don't bathe, you're eating slop from buckets in front of everyone on decks. It's a very bad situation.
Now,
right?
this is in the heart of the Sea Org. This isn't just in the church locally in Hollywood or anything like that.
No,
yeah,
this is people in that Sea organization, right?
What makes the Sea Org so what's the word I'm looking for? What makes you want to join the Sea Org is because you have to have money to be a Scientologist. You have to have the cash to buy the books, to take the courses, to do this, to do whatever. Well, when you join the Sea Org, you pay nothing. So it's a way to become a Scientologist where there's nothing taken out of your pocket for that whole billion years that you're there.
Right.
But
then it's free room and board.
Yeah.
You're disavowing premarital sex. You know, you're not allowed to marry anyone. If you marry and decide to have kids, you relinquish your status. If you want to have that child, you are no longer a member. So it's huge. And they do work. They work like 100 hours per week for like minimal pay.
It's crazy.
If you get paid.
Right.
They do.
And
minimal. Yeah.
A big thing about what they believe in and L. Ron Hubbard is they don't believe in mental illness or psychology as we know it, right? And so they feel like with Dianetics, that is like the Bible, the way to become clear. So we'll talk about like what that means, right? Which is just, it's when you start Scientology, you're a PC, right? Or pre-clear, okay? You need to be audited. So like you were saying with the meter, you sit down with an auditor and they will ask you questions to bring up trauma, right? And they record all these things and they pay to have this done, thousands of dollars, right? A lot of money. And some
put
of the
on your
things,
resume.
right?
Yeah.
Some of the ways that they do this auditing situation is very interesting. So they command these questions, right? So they will ask it over and over and over again until they get the right answer. And what they're doing is looking for something called engrams, right? Or the trace of a past trauma that is in your body, right? So they're trying to free that from the person. And they do something called command hypnosis. And so again, they're asking it over and over and over again until you give the right answer. And there's a movie that came out called The Master. It came out in 2012. And there's a scene where they're doing an audit and it's crazy.
Really?
It's crazy. Yes, you have to watch it because the guy like starts hitting himself to like give the right answer. It's insane.
Yeah, because they do that to you. They make you then make up shit like your crimes. They make you make up crimes just so you can get out of there and stop being tortured.
Right. Like if someone was interested in Scientology and they just stopped by the church, you have to do a personality test. I'm sure mine is crazy town.
Oh my God.
You have to fill out 200 questions. And these questions are very personal, right?
I refused mine. They offered that to us.
No.
Yeah.
At your job?
At my job.
Dang it. Come on,
You
Rob.
didn't done it.
My buddies took it, and you know me, I'm like, I ain't gonna do that bullshit, over my dead body, because like I said, we were picking up a business in shambles who was wasting its money due to the Scientology shit, and they're trying to get me to take I'm like, look, the only personality test we need is you guys need to realize your shit's all fucked up. It's fucked up, and like
your shit's done fucked up.
So
like, I don't want you in my brain.
I was in a position of not power, but a position of trust and respect, because me and my buddy were kind of running the show there. And so we didn't, the two of us didn't take the test. And some of the lower guys on the totem pole all took it kind of as a joke, and they all failed miserably. And I don't remember all the questions, but I remember it was like, the SATs, it was just a bajillion questions. You said like 200, that's a lot. But yeah, I refused it. Not gonna happen.
Oh my God.
You know what's crazy, guys? Oh, sorry. something fell. Shit's happening.
Hey, stop drinking.
I don't know about dear David. I lost my train of thought. Sorry. One of my friends, so I don't know if you guys remember this, but I worked at right next door to the LA Scientology Center.
Yeah.
Which is it's like a fortress, right, guys? It's ridiculous. I would go out to lunch, and like I swear to you, the walls are like 15 feet high. It's like a ridiculous amount, and then like on the other side you have like the barbed wire and stuff. Like I don't know.
This
why
is not
people,
this isn't the place by Kaiser Sunset, right? This is the other one.
It is.
Or the place right on Sunset.
Yeah.
Right.
The blue building.
Yes.
The blue one. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah. I'm very familiar with that.
If you walk to the back of it, you'll see these walls are like huge. There's like barbed wire. People are always walking around in suits and their little ties and stuff.
The vest.
Yeah, yeah.
The they look like movie theater attendants.
They do, absolutely. Yeah, they're really strange. There were so many times when I passed by them and they don't talk to you unless you're like by the entrance, and then they try to get you to come in, right? It's really kind of weird. But I had a friend of mine who was a nurse, and she was having trouble with her son, so she like, and this is the problem, is that they get you when you're at your weakest, right? And so she was at a boiling point with her kid and felt like she needed help, and so they were right next door, and she reached out to them just out of curiosity, and he ended up attending school there.
Oh wow.
Oh wow. It's
right?
funny you mentioned that, because on that same line, I spent a lot of time on Sunset between the two big hospitals, when my boy was going through his stuff. And so I walked by these guys daily going to lunch or get water or whatever. And I did notice that the people they were reaching out to the most seemed to be, people maybe English was a second language, or just people who like single moms kind of looking, or a lady pushing a cart. Like like no one ever talked to me. And I was like full of smiles, ready to chat it up. I was like, let's go. I used to work. No, it was almost like they're going for like just an easier target. Someone low hanging fruit, someone who's maybe not that sure of their, what they're got going on in their life. Like you said, find people when they're down and try and, sell them on this little spiel they got going on. But yeah, definitely. I definitely watched that firsthand. But they're like young, good looking kids. They're not like, they're like sharp dressed little kids. They seem smart, well kept, so it's kind of crazy.
You want to hear a fun fact, guys?
Yeah.
So, I worked for Kaiser, right? So if you look at the surrounding buildings, the main hospital is right across the street from the Scientology Center. And then if you walk down a block, there's like more Kaiser buildings, and they have addresses as their labels, right? I worked at the 4950 building. And when I went through training, they said, that building across the street, unfortunately, does not belong to Kaiser. It's a Scientology building. But the funny thing is that Kaiser did try to buy that land, and they were in the process of purchasing it, but they wrote a check, and Scientology just gave the fucking cash. Bam, baby.
Oh my God.
So they swooped it out of Kaiser, like underneath Kaiser. That's crazy.
I thought you were going to talk about their currency, the iTex. Did you learn about that? That they have their own they have their own basically Bitcoin, and it's only good from Scientologist to Scientologist. When we used to do jobs, the owner would be like, I'd be like, hey, did you do accounts receivable for this client and blah blah blah, and he'd be like, well, they're paying an iTex. So, and I'm like, what is that? And he's like, it's the Scientology currency, and I'm like, that's not going to help you at your vendors that are past due.
Yes.
The actual bills that need to pay. So it was like a trading system, but only strictly exclusive. So it only had value in the Scientology community. So needless to say, we worked for a lot of Scientologists because they were passing around this monopoly money.
That's amazing.
That must be some type of secret thing, because I have not heard that of all the stuff I looked up.
It's called.
Dang.
I believe it's called iTex. Not
text,
text, like a textbook, but like
bananas.
Something like that.
If someone tried to pay me with that, I'd be like, what is this?
Yeah.
Can't buy food with this?
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
So I wanted to talk about you know, how we get to like the Leah Remini series, like what kind of happened there. So people really are trying to go clear, right? They're trying to better themselves. But unfortunately, part of that is being able or doing a disconnection with people or suppressive people, right? And these can be people that you're, you know, you have family members that they say you can't be around. And that's what I think really leads us into the Leah Remini series, is all these people have these disconnections from family because they're part of Scientology and they're the suppressive person, right? And holds them back. And if you want to, you know, kind of share what you learned on that series, it really is a cry fest. Like, it's so emotional. It's really sad.
Well, let me talk about David DeSavage. He is the Scavenge. Yeah, DeSavage. So when
Miss Gavage.
Miss Cavage. So he took over as soon as LRH left his body, Elron left his body and went off to do his job out into the universe, whatever he needs to do before he comes back and lives again and goes.
That happened in 1986.
Yes.
1985. Yeah. Yes. What do they call it? They call it OT life or something like that. In the OT life.
I don't know.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So David M. Miscavige.
Miscarriage. We're gonna call him miscarriage. That's
miscarriage.
I think he kind of like just like said, okay, I'm here. I'm queer. I'm the boss now. Fuck you all. Like, you got to listen to me, because I don't remember there ever being like some type of election or somebody saying, hey, you should now be. He was like, no. Okay, I'm here.
No, Ron chose him as his successor.
Yeah.
Ron
he did. Okay, cool.
Ron had to go into hiding, and we can talk about why he went into hiding later. But he was his successor. He was chosen, and then David took over.
Yeah, so David went into this when he was 12 years old.
Yeah.
Right? He went up to his dad and said, hey, I want to do this. And his dad was like, well, you know, okay, let's go. I think he waited until he was like 16, and then he shipped him off to Florida or wherever. Yeah. And then when LRH passed away in 1985, he gave like the eulogy that was like the craziest fucking thing I've ever heard. And then he just resumed. He became the Pope of Scientology in that moment.
Well, David's family are all Scientologists. His parents were Scientologists. He was raised in.
Yeah. So what brought Leah Remini into the spotlight? Was it her trying to leave, or was there anything else?
Well, see, what happened was David's married to Shelley, and Shelley, you know, when you're a married couple in the Sea Org, you basically have no interaction with each other whatsoever, but they kind of did because they were the two like higher ups. And it was the Tom Cruise, Katie Holmes wedding that was in like Europe somewhere. They held it in a castle, and basically everybody in Scientology attended this wedding because it was like, oh. So Leah says that she was just, you know, standing next to a beautiful fireplace, just kind of hanging out, and David came up to there, and they came up to her, and she was kind of talking to him and whatever, and she's like, where's Shelley? Like, just shooting the shit, because her and Shelley were friends. It wasn't like she was questioning him. Like, it was just really weird that Shelley was not there with him at the wedding, and like shit hit the fan, because she's not allowed to question him about his personal life and da-da-da-da-da. And it was like totally blown out of proportion. And that's when she kind of like stepped back and was like, what the fuck? I was just asking about my friend. But it's kind of like, you know, like when somebody's cheating on somebody and they're saying, oh, you're cheating on me. It's because that person is cheating on them. So they're like paranoid. So I think he reacted that way because he's like, well, whatever.
He had some skeletons in his closet, and
she went missing, and no one knows where the fuck she is. She's been gone for I don't know how many years.
I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah, she like fell off the planet.
Nobody has seen her since 2007.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and he looked at her like, who the fuck are you to be asking me? Like, you got no right, bitch. Yeah. He looked at her like,
she's been in this for so long, and she like, I mean, they have
she was
interviews with
9
her.
years old.
Yeah,
She was a
she has
little
interviews
girl.
where she's like saying like this world is not going to be anywhere. It's not going to go anywhere unless Scientology is involved and this and that, whatever else. And then she's like, hold up, what the fuck? And then that's when she left, and all the drama happened. And then
I
she
think it's
decided
crazy
to,
that like you ask a question and you committed a crime. That's their viewpoint. Like she committed a crime by asking where his wife was. That was it.
That's kind of like how the today's current media / politics are. If you question certain things because they've associated them with certain things, you get yelled at and you don't get any answers to your question.
I don't know what you're talking about, Roth. That doesn't happen. You're incorrect.
Hey, I have a quick question regarding like, researching Scientology and whatnot. Did you guys ever watch The Path?
I did not.
Man, it was such a good show, and it was
oh wait, I take that back. I watched 2 episodes. I watched like the first 2 episodes.
Yeah. So basically The Path is Scientology on film, and it's like exposing everything that Scientology does underneath, and all of it, like all the secret stuff that goes on and the way that they treat their members, even like the torture and that. What were you talking about earlier about how they question you?
It's rehabilitation,
auditing, and the email
rehabilitation. Right, they do that too in The Path, and it's really good. The guy that comes out in Breaking Bad, was this Logan? Paul Logan?
Yeah, no, it's the guy that plays Jesse. What's his name?
Yeah,
I don't know, but he's cute as hell.
How old is this, and where can we see this show?
So it came out in like 2016, I want to say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So around the same time Leah's show was running.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Very interesting show. You got to see
it. with Leah's show, and I'm sure you guys watch a bunch of it. She's really talking to past members and what they went through, what changed for them, right? And maybe you guys want to talk about that.
Oh my God, this is where I became a wreck. Like, so basically she was interviewing everybody that basically left and was determined a suppressed person. They call it a SP. And they all had family still in Scientology. So they have lost their mothers, their fathers, their siblings, their children, their whole families. And it's so sad. It's so crazy.
So why don't we talk about what disassociation means, or disconnection, what disconnection means. So like if you decide that you no longer want to be a Scientologist, have committed crimes, and they actually will go to your family's home, like say it's me, right? They'll go to my mom's home and they'll tell her all these things over and over, why she shouldn't talk to me, why I'm such a bad person and all the crimes that I've committed. And they are using mind control.
They attack people, really.
Yeah, it's so horrible.
So all these people that are on here have disconnected from the church, right? If we're going to use that term loosely, and all of a sudden it's like there was this one girl, was it Becky, that was on there, and then they were interviewing her and her mother, and her mom was like, married to a Scientologist, and she was like torn between a rock and a hard place. Like, here's my daughter, she's finally come back to me, I love my child, but now Scientology is telling me that if I talk to her, like bad things are going to happen. And so because she loved her husband, she stayed in it, and she's disconnected from her daughter.
That's really sad. Crazy.
So they drive a stake.
They drive a stake between your family and you, and it's all or nothing. And it's creepy. I don't know how it doesn't get more exposure for being so creepy. But then again, a lot of the people who, Tom Cruise and Will Smith, some of these people they're already elites. Their lives are already disconnected. So it's probably easier for the higher ups to hop aboard because they're already away from their family for, 20 hours a day or what have you.
Right. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I don't think you're, kind of middle class member is going to have to really experience what, you know, someone like Leah, or I know the singer Beck, I believe he left the Church of Scientology and had a ton of threats. But yeah, it's the big players that they're concerned about. They want your money. They want it coming in on a monthly basis, however often you pay. But yeah, it's insanity.
Crazy. Yeah, and something that Leah kept saying, other people kept saying over and over again, is they will like hunt you down and investigate you, attack you with things. This is not a group that is like, okay, do your own thing. It just is not like that.
Oh yeah, like SUVs it's around awful. The corner. What are they doing over there? What's going on?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And this
Secret Service.
Yes. So this takes me to like a crazy story. I had no idea about this story. Okay. So back in November 1974, Scientology sent out a bunch of people to be employed in government offices, government jobs, right? And this was called Snow White, Operation Snow White. And they stole files all at once from the government. There was 5,000 undercover Scientology agents that did this all at one time. 11 people were arrested, and one of them was L. Ron Hubbard's wife. She did 5 years in prison and got a $10,000 fine, and that's why he went into hiding.
She took the blame for everybody.
It was crazy, and then of course he did that.
Why did they do it for like blackmail or something, or what did they do with all the secret to blackmail so the government wouldn't get on their case?
They wanted to have an upper hand. They wanted to have all the power.
Immunity. Okay.
And also they were trying to get to be tax exempt and be noticed as a church and not have to pay taxes. And at this point they were still paying taxes because Ron L. Hubbard was still alive, and basically all the money was basically going to him because he was the owner of Scientology. So they were trying to get, ahead of things. So, they could
so they fit right in. They fit right into the upper echelon, all the stuff we cover. It's like, hey, I got dirt on you. You got dirt on me. Let's just keep it cool. And, that's kind of how these big players roll. They find out, so-and-so has been sleeping with, 13-year-olds. And he's like, well, you were too, because we were at the same party. And they're like, okay, let's agree to disagree and we'll all keep our mouths shut, kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah,
it's
that's
crazy. So he was in hiding. I know that he did do some time on naval ships with the Sea Org here and there, but he was in hiding for a few years until he died January 24th, 1986. And then that's when David comes into play here, and his crazy shit that he does. So we mentioned that celebrities were part of this, right? There's a lot of celebrities that we know are in Scientology. That there's a whole list that kind of dabbled in Scientology or were part of it for a bit, but then left. And I made a list of those people. And a lot of these, it blew my mind. I had no idea.
Cool.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
Read it.
The first one is Jerry Seinfeld.
Really?
No.
Yes. He said back in the day,
Love
when he was in his 20s, he said he dabbled into it. He looked into it a little bit. But
like it's meth. I dabbled with it a little bit.
I dabbled with some meth, whatever. But he eventually decided it wasn't for him. But there is an episode where he kind of cracks a joke at Scientologists. And it's the one where they're in the parking lot all day, right, trying to find their car.
Yes.
And in one of the scenes, they had gotten a ride with somebody to look for their car, and they all get kicked out. And he's like, "Man, those Scientologists are sensitive." And I love that.
Oh my gosh.
So another one is Brad Pitt, right?
Figure.
So, yeah. So he dated Julia Dreyfus. Whatever. What's her name?
Juliette Lewis.
Juliette Lewis. Yes.
She was brought up in the church her whole life.
Right. So because he was with her, he looked into it or whatever, but they broke up, and so he said it wasn't for him, not his thing. There was an author. I don't know a lot about this author, but I guess he's very well known. William S. Burroughs. I guess he was a Scientologist for a long time, but then he ended up leaving and then having scathing like fighting attacks in the LA Times with Scientologists. Like they would write to each other back and forth, like just talking shit to each other. And I thought that was interesting. The guy that made Flashdance and Top Gun, his name's Don Simpson. He was a Scientologist for a long time, and then he ended up leaving and saying they just wanted all my money. I just gave them money. And then, well, I think we all know this one is Katie Holmes, right?
Oh my God,
Yeah.
poor girl. Poor girl.
Crazy.
Oh.
So she was with Tom Cruise, who is still a Scientologist, but she got out. But wow, it seems like she really went through a lot.
Thank the Lord.
Does anybody know if the
What?
At least Tom Cruise is normal.
Yeah. He's so normal.
okay?
Wait, when he jumped up on the couch, was that on Ellen or Oprah?
It was Oprah.
Oprah.
And
Yeah.
what was he doing there? Why did he freak out like that? Was he just having a moment?
He just did a little mess.
That was the peak of his Scientology, though. I remember he's like, yeah. It's like really good, man.
Oprah asked him if he was in love, and
then
all of a sudden he just like all of a sudden he just like gets up on the couch and just like hopping around like a monkey or something. So weird.
I mean,
I
after Top Gun, I mean, I don't know how you could fall in love with the game. You remember the girl in Top Gun? She was so pretty. I don't like.
Smoking
you can't
hot,
really
dude.
You can't compare anything to it. But all right, sorry.
You're living out your child fantasies.
I just watched that before quarantine started at my gym, and I forgot how good of a movie it was.
It gave me feelings. Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell your wifey to dress up like her for you.
She can pull it off. I think she can pull it off.
I'll take. No, she can. She can.
Yeah, she can pull it off.
Absolutely.
It's just our household that can't pull it off, but she can.
Yeah.
She's hot.
Freaking kids.
Okay,
so love you, babe. So the next one is Jason Lee. You know, he's the actor from My Name is Earl. He's super funny, and he was a hardcore, didn't mess around Scientologist for like 20 some years. Like he dated another actress, and she ended up doing an interview about it. Like she once read a book that was like kind of anti-Scientology, and he's like, "It's over. Like I can't have you in my life."
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Put on the brakes.
But he finally left, and he's not a Scientologist anymore. And then Christopher Reeve, Superman.
No.
What? Yeah. So this is a very I guess famous story where he was part of Scientology, and they were doing auditing, right, with the e-meter, and they were asking him questions, and he wanted to figure out if this shit was real. So he made up an entire bullshit story, and they were saying that the meter was saying that he was telling the truth and they were onto something. And he said his heart dropped. He's like, well, this is all bullshit. And so he left.
Oh man.
Yeah. So then there's Lisa Marie Presley, who was into Scientology and everything. But she ended up leaving. I didn't know this. Her sister and mom are still Scientologists.
Really?
Yeah. Paul Haggis, he's a screenwriter, very famous guy. He was a Scientologist for a long time, and now he comes out with interviews and talks about what bullshit it is, all the time. He's hardcore against it now. And then number one is Leah Remini.
Yes.
Yeah, she's kind of come out against it a little bit.
Just a little bit. Yeah.
Just a little bit. No, what is that other guy's name? John Travolta.
He's still in it.
He's still in it.
Oh, okay. I thought you were.
Yeah.
I have a story about John Travolta. Okay, so
all right.
I don't know if you guys know this, but L. Ron Hubbard, because he's a writer and author, he actually wrote some movie scripts, and one of them was that terrible freaking movie Battlefield Earth. He wrote it back in 1982, and it came out, and it starred John Travolta.
Oh my goodness.
It was
so
terrible.
You guys, when I said that, I just bawled my eyes out. There was a couple that was on Leah Remini's show, and their names are Mark and Claire Headley, and they're really popular being SPs. They left after being 20 something years into the Sea Org and into Scientology, and they actually met in the Sea Org, and they ended up getting married. And, you know, they ended up getting pregnant, and they actually forced her to have an abortion, which really screwed her up. But she basically, you know, just dealt with it because that's the way it had to be. And then at one point they, Mark decided he was out of there. So he planned his whole escape. He put a motorcycle outside of the gates. Now this is the place that they have up in Hemet. It's called the Gold Base.
Mm-hmm.
And he snuck out and was riding on the motorcycle and just left his wife. Basically, he's out, I'm there, because she was supposed to come home from work and he was going to say, let's go. And she never came back because they would work 20 hours a week. They never saw each other, whatever. And as he's driving in the desert on this motorcycle, these two black SUVs come up
Always
to
an
him
SUV.
and they fucking run him off the road, dude, on his motorcycle. Luckily, he survived. He didn't get hurt, but they were going to take him. They were going to pick him up and take him back. And at that same time, he said he went in the middle of the road and he was waving his arms, and someone saw it and they called the police. And the police came by and he told them what was going on. And he was like, peace out. They turned and took off and he was free sailing. He was done. So what made me really sad is he said the only person I had in my life was my dad. So I called my dad. And he's like, Dad, can I come to you? I just left. Can I come to you? And oh God, this is gonna make me get emotional. And the dad goes, sure. I've been waiting for this day to happen for a long time.
Oh my God.
And I was just like, oh my God, like that's unconditional love. This man could leave his family and go to this cult, and this dad's just sitting there waiting for the day for him to come back.
That's true love.
So the wife ended up leaving too, and they ended up living a normal life and having 3 more children. And they actually sued Scientology, and they didn't win, but they're like big advocates of how bad Scientology is and whatever. But like, man, that story just got me. I just couldn't, whatever. But
God.
Mark wrote what they call it. They call it blown. Like if you blow or you're blown when you take off, when you sneak out and you leave. That's what they call it. So he wrote a book called Blown for Good is what it's called. And it talks about him and his wife's whole, you know, situation and how they both got out and all that. So
that kind of sounds like a porno.
or some type of drug, cocaine, something or other.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That publisher should have said, well, people might think this is something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just saying.
You can leave Scientology, but there's one thing we have to arrange real quick. Okay, Leah? Right?
It's so crazy. It's awful. That breaks my heart.
I know.
Did you guys see the interviews with Jenna Miscavige, David's niece?
No, I don't think I got there.
Is she a Scientologist? No, she's not
anymore.
Okay.
Oh, she was in it for 20 years, and she was giving this interview, and this kind of really tells you like how things are run there. Both of her parents, obviously, Scientologists. She said starting at the age of 4 years old, she would see her parents for 1 hour a week.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no.
She was allowed to see her parents 1 hour a week, starting at that really young age. And then, you know, as she got older, they would have these kids do like manual labor.
Oh yeah.
All day long, just break them down.
Yeah.
And you think about like leaving something that you've been in for, 20, 30 years, and all you have and all you have is tax money, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. How do you start over? And I'm sure that keeps people there. It's a way to control people.
It does.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's funny
you know what's starting over.
Because my old boss, like, I used to think this guy would sit in his office till 10, 11 at night, and then he would say, I got to go home and do more proposals or whatever. And I'm like, he was like superhuman, like a robot. He was never had family time. And funny thing, his wife was also in Scientology. He was married, but they weren't a unit. They were always apart, always coming and going, never together.
Mm-hmm.
It was really strange. And they also had free bagels every day. And so the thing, we're like, don't eat the bagels. That was kind of our thing. And they were blueberry bagels. When you put those in the toaster, it's hard to say no when you smell a toasted blueberry bagel in the morning.
Yep.
You can't say no to the bagels.
Yeah, just eat a bagel, grab a Dianetics book. It's like as thick as a Bible, and there's 40 of them, but you'll get through it.
Yeah, so they'll charge you for that. Are you kidding me?
You're trained to be a workhorse. You're trained to just work. And then you're also trained, or I should say brainwashed, to have no empathy, to have no sympathy about to nobody. So, I mean, somebody could literally be like breaking down, whatever, and like, you'll just be sitting there like, what the fuck? Like, what's wrong with you? Like,
Right.
They're totally in their own head all the time. And like, someone could be like an alien could be pushing a shopping cart by him, and they'd be like, oh yeah, there goes, and they'd be like, what was I going to do today? Here's something that was weird. All the businesses that we went into when I was working for the Scientologist, they all had what's called an org board, like organization board, right? Because everything is org, the Sea Org and the org board. Every business has an org board, including ours, and it's basically like the pyramid, and it has like all the leaders, and then the
Interesting.
So-and-so,
That's cool.
Yeah, it was kind of like a chess game, the royalty, and it all came down like a tree, and then even the ants at the bottom had their little duties below them, and it was like fill the coffee, toast the bagels, and then our job was like keep the ants in line, and it was so weird. And we're like, that the whole thing was about, with our experience was that it was a business model. And that's how they tried to sell it. Like, you can really achieve great things if you follow this model. Like, a certain percentage goes into advertising, a certain percentage goes into, marketing and blah, blah, blah.
Interesting.
But it was really weird. And all the businesses had the same thing. We'd walk in and be like, oh shit, there's the org board. It's another Scientology. That was getting away for us.
Now I'm going to look for an org board when I go to.
I know, right? Go in there. Check it out.
I know what you're up to. I know who you are.
I found something very odd when David's dad came in to interview with Leah. She was like, so does the church know you're here? And he said, oh, I'm sure they do, and I don't give a damn. Like, I don't fucking care.
Oh, because they can put you the ringer, dude. That guy's like, oh my god.
They will put people in like cell type situations, like where you don't see them.
I call it the hole.
You don't see them for long periods of time. So a lot of people say, oh, that's where Shelley is, or Shelley was murdered. Other, Scientologists say, no, she's on a special project.
For how many years?
Leah,
it's like the CIA. It's like the CIA of religions.
Yes.
Everything, like, people just disappear. People get ran off. That's everything you see in the CIA and these, black ops, clandestine operations. But in a religion, you're like, what are you hiding? What is there to hide? Just a bunch of crooks stealing everyone's money. What else is there?
What was really crazy?
Go ahead.
Okay, cool. What was really crazy is Leah made she finally filed a missing persons report for Shelley, and she was contacted, I don't know, maybe a few weeks after that or whatever, from the LAPD, and they're like, we spoke with her, she's fine, case closed. And that was that.
Did you mention the word Scientology?
That fucking scares the shit out of me. That means they have people in LAPD that fucking got paid. You know what I mean?
Oh, you guys gotta watch the path. You gotta watch the path. No. Everything you're talking about right now, all of it is in that show, The Path.
Okay.
Like the big black SUVs.
I'm gonna watch it.
They have people in they have government officials and police officers and doctors, and they have all these people that are working out in the community, in society, but they all come back home to this cult type world, right? And this is where they bear their roots, and this is where they give all their money.
Like, sometimes I think like maybe a cult would be fun.
Yeah.
But then I think maybe not.
You want the sex orgy cult though, Red.
Not anymore.
I want to put the flowers.
Not anymore.
I want to put the flowers in my hair.
Yeah, flowers in my hair. I could be down with that. Like Scott always says, like, I'm a free spirit, right? Hippie style, right? but I could never be in a situation like this. Because I just talk too much shit.
Hey, speaking of cults, did you guys watch the Waco thing on Netflix? I've been meaning to get to that.
Yes.
That sounds like something cool. That is a conspiracy
You should watch
theory.
it. Yeah.
It's very, very sad.
It is very sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was a youngster
it.
when that happened. I wasn't really keeping up with the news. I was out skateboarding and panhandling cigarettes at the local 7-Eleven.
Lighting things on fire in junior high.
Hey, did I tell you guys the story about the Scientology? Did I tell you that last week? What I did with the laser? Or no?
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I don't need to repeat it again.
Yeah. No.
That was the highlight, though. That was the highlight of my day.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah.
They have their vests, and imagine like a house, like a maze, because that's what it's like. You can see the first floor, second floor, third floor tiers. They connect all the little offices, and they were coming out like termites and looking around like robots, like. Oh,
that's
didn't
crazy.
See, okay, and they disappear. It was so crazy, and it was almost like just a bunch of brainwashed like idiots. Like no one could think to look across the street at the guy in the hospital window.
Seen it. Yeah.
It was classic. It was classic.
Awesome.
I would do it again in a heartbeat.
I'm happy you had that moment.
Me too.
It was good.
I love it. Well, this was fun. Do you guys have anything else to add? Any craziness?
Yeah. So Leah was interviewing one of the episodes. Is they wanted to see what happened to the people after they left, like emotionally and financially and everything, like what happened to them. So she just had like, just ordinary, Joes that sat down and, they left and they were talking about, how much money they lost and whatever. And there's this one couple that just got scammed out of like $75,000, and they quit and they wanted their money back, and they absolutely would not give them their money back. And they kind of fought a little bit, but then they're like, you know what, peace out, fuck it, we don't even want it now, because we want out, we want to get away from these people and whatever. And as they're leaving, the registrar, which is the lady that kind of like, she's like the debt collector, she says, you can use it in your next life though if you want.
No.
Can you believe that?
That would piss me off.
Oh my God. Like, thanks. I got $50K to use in my next life when I decide to come back and be a Scientologist again. Like,
you sign a contract.
I bet
years, baby.
I bet when you buy the next level, you're not allowed to use the iTex, right? They're like, no, we need like the real money for that.
No.
But when we reimburse you, here's $50,000 credit in Monopoly money, and
right. It's good money. It's still good.
Yeah.
You're gonna love it.
It just doesn't work here.
So you guys sold? You want to go? You want to go take a personality test for fun? We should do that one day.
I think
should
we
just go.
should.
No, I don't even want to. I don't even want to step place in that. There's this really cool kid that I work with. His name's Jonathan, and I've mentioned him a couple times in our episodes. And him and his girlfriend were just cruising by, and they're like, "Hey, like, let's fucking check this out." They're like all totally not into it, but they just wanted to see what it was like. They separate him like for like 3 hours, and they each took the personality test, and then they had to go into the room and they were like interviewed and whatever. And basically they told him, you can't be with her because you guys aren't meant for each other. Come with us, da 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 da. And then they said the same thing to her and whatever. And they finally left, but I'm like, you are fucking crazy, you guys. I'm surprised they even let you leave. I don't even want to step foot in that building. Oh my God.
If I took the personality test, they'd be like, okay, you need the most expensive package. Your personality is super fucked. We have a lot of work to do. You can't even go home. You're still
It's funny you say that. So my friend, his name was Jason, actually. We got him a job as a temporary guy, right? And he had just gotten out of Afghanistan, but he was pretty solid up here, and a little bit of PTSD, but pretty much
just a little,
totally, pretty well put together, and had a good sense of humor, great sense of humor. So he's like, I'm gonna take the personality test. I can't wait to see what I get. Well, he tells me, he's like, I purposely put the most fucked up answers you could imagine, right?
Oh my God.
It's funny that you brought this up, because like 3 weeks later, when the personality test results come back, there were these 2 girls who had been hired. They were Scientologists to try and put our books together or something, because it was an unorganized mess, because the owner took all the money. But anyways, these ladies were like imagine like running into cult members. They're like, and so this is what they came up to us. They're like, even though I didn't even take the test and I like put my foot down and they never questioned me about it just because I was where I was at in the company, they go, we just want to warn you about Jason. We got his personality test results back. He's really unstable. And like they gave me this warning. And so I was like, I'm going to keep an eye on him. And I totally like just blowing it out the ass. And I just couldn't believe they were like totally yeah, totally brainwashed.
Oh my gosh. I know someone, I'm not going to name who it is, did the eHarmony thing where you fill it out so you're like connected to people. And it basically said, you're no good for us. We can't help you.
Oh no! That's so sad.
Oh my God.
And this person is like a totally fucked person.
Oh my God. So is eHarmony it's not like a Christian thing, right? It's just like a normal dating site.
I think eHarmony is normal. And then, I don't mean to say normal. I don't think it's religious.
Okay.
You know what? Even those Christian sites, it's like Tinder with a fake name. Yeah, that's all bullshit. I met people that are like, oh yeah.
He's looked into it.
They're like, I got some tail on, eHarmony, Christ version 2.0, and they're just looking for tail. And I was like, this is awful. It's like Ashley Madison, but
whatever. Ross like signing up, putting his profile together. Get some tail, you say?
Never.
Yeah. I'm the only one in the group that would be allowed to do something like that, and I still won't do it. Like, hell no.
Right?
Yeah, hell no.
All right, guys. So the final thing that I wanted to say was in all of Leah Remini's show, I think that in order to prevent from getting sued, she's probably gotten sued anyway, but to prevent anything coming across inadvertently as if the Church of Scientology said it, there's a disclaimer that comes out like an obnoxious amount of times.
It's every commercial.
Insane.
It comes up.
Every commercial.
Yep.
And this is what it says. It says, the church challenges the credibility of the contributors appearing in this program and their statements. As of the airing of this episode, the church has not agreed to participate. Information the church provided about matters discussed in this series can be viewed at, and then it gives you like this little website.
That's crazy.
So they're still controlling her. It's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It's nuts.
That's frightening.
Yeah,
that's frightening.
Absolutely.
That she wants to do a show and she has to put that on there.
Yep.
Oh,
I think it's for her own protection, but
chills.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Fucking crazy.
So I'm gonna go off on a ledge here and say it's a cult. Right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Anyone else? Anyone?
It's not a religion.
Cult or it's a scam. I mean, like, not everyone's like drinking the Kool-Aid and dying, but they are running people off the road and taking everyone's money. So it's a scam, and you're the sucker if you get caught up in it.
Yeah.
I would imagine though, because some of these higher level people, like John Travolta, for example, if you ever heard the guy talk, he's really got it together. He's fun to listen to. He's a cool guy. So it's like smart, successful actor. What enticed him? There's got to be some little. Whether it's like you're kind of the in crowd. It's the common thing between a lot of the elites, so they feel special. Something is enticing these people who aren't stupid to get into it, that's the scary part.
Well, Rock, they did mention that the celebrities, because the celebrities have their own center. It's right there in Hollywood. It says Scientology Celebrity Center. The celebrities are treated differently. They have a lot more privileges, and they don't really have to do a lot of stuff that a normal Scientologist has to do.
Yeah,
basically,
they audit
their money,
right?
They want their money.
It's their money.
Recorded.
I don't know. I don't know if they're as aggressively.
It's
right, but not as aggressively. They have stuff
on the celebrities. These celebrities, if they leave, the stuff will come out, right? Because in auditing, you have to share all this information, right?
Oh, so that's why they. Yeah, it's like, oh, you got the wrong answer. They make you repeat yourself till you actually tell a lie about yourself, and then they catch you in it. That was just
think about your deepest, darkest, personal things coming out. Nobody wants that.
Yeah.
I would be like,
nowadays, who gives a fuck, though? You know what I mean?
I'd be like, when I was 15, I put peanut butter in my belly button and let my dog lick it out. And they'd be like, okay, sir, the door's over there. You're free. Go ahead, get the hell out of here.
You're not allowed in our church.
You sicko. They don't even want you. Oh, that'd be sad, Rock. They don't even want you. Peanut butter.
I think, you know what? Hey, I'll tell you what. Next time I go down for my son's children's hospital crap, I will go in and get a personality test just so I can maybe bring it back and show you guys. I'll do it. I'll go in and
You better text us when you're doing it, because I'm going to pray for you.
I will totally
pray for you.
Play the like really moldable, like empty, like searching for answers person, and I'd be like, I just feel like this is it for me, and I think Scientology was meant to be, and just see what happens. I don't know. It could be fun.
So your wife left you. Your dog died.
There you go.
All the things. All the things.
Stop licking your belly button.
Okay, and then we'll follow up. You'll have to share what happened.
I'll do it. Don't threaten me with a good time.
I'm scared. I'm so scared. I'm scared for you, Rock. I'm scared.
No.
No, they can't come at me. Like, you have to, like, you got to be initiated before they can do damage. What they're gonna do is most likely be like, all right, you got to go. You're too blue collar for us or whatever. I don't know, but I'll do my best.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's exciting. Oh,
my
it's
goodness.
exciting. Hey, well, good job, you guys. This was a fun one.
Yay.
It was good.
Yep.
This was insanity.
There's so much information too that we can totally do a second episode on this too, because I learned so much on Ron and what he went through in his whole life. Yeah, L. Ron, especially the five mansions that they built all over.
It's like Elroy from the Jetsons. Elroy. That's how I remember it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? But we do need we got to talk about AI soon, because there's some big things happening with AI.
Okay.
And it's exciting
I'm
stuff.
down. Let's do it.
All
5
right,
years.
you guys.
All right. Well, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Oh,
So next week let's do AI. I know Rock's been wanting to do it, so I think that's a good idea.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right.
Let's all come as AIs.
Okay.
Well, in 5 years, we won't have to actually speak. We'll just be able to have it through our minds.
That'll be an interesting podcast.
I'm gonna Bluetooth my thoughts to you, and the cool thing is I don't even have to use words, so you get the true thoughts in their true form. They're not.
That's a little creepy.
Sabotaged
I don't
by
want
vocabulary.
no. Nobody should hear my thoughts ever.
Like, this fucking knucklehead again. Every week I gotta put up with this shit.
Oh my goodness.
Absolutely not. No way. I love it.
That's funny.
This is fun. I love it. Okay,
I know, it's so much fun.
Are you guys
Yeah.
ready? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
We
have
questions.
Bye, you
Bye.
guys.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Enjoy your week.
Bye.
All right, see ya.
See ya.
Bye.
Handcuffs and Sage is hosted by Red, Timo, and Trey in a shitty guest room in Los Angeles.
Theme music is Leave Now by We Are Wasted. Cover art done by Megan Winchester.
Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Show us some love on iTunes. Be a badass and do what you want. Until next time.